Hey, I'm Decathlon Gamer. Welcome back to Out of the Park Baseball. This is episode number 7, and we are into March, so it's preseason. We're going to start our spring training, and then we have, before the end of this month, our World Baseball Tournament, the inaugural tournament that will get underway. We'll get into the details of that a little bit more as it approaches. At this point, I'm just hoping that it functions as it should without me having to go in and manually set every single team. We'll see if it operates appropriately. Well, anyway, we have our first player development update as we return from the off season with players prepared for the new season. So the first one is Duarte dropping a little bit from where he was. These are all, at least to this first list, this is all senior level players. Bo Burrows, the new addition that we just signed, starting pitcher wise, has shown some progress. His movement and then his overall rating has boosted to 2.5 stars, which is what his potential is. Yohan Ibar, who is our closer now, 25-year-old, so very nice for that one. His movement and his potential movement have both seen an increase. Sam Nance has slipped just a little bit right when I was getting ready to make a move to see him go out. I just hadn't gotten to it just yet. That's disappointing. Hopefully others don't pick up on that decrease as we have. New man Ruben Lugo, who we just traded for. Potential power has dropped, but his current defensive rating is up. Cornegay, who I've been pretty high on, who we picked up last season and has done well. Potential contact is up, but current and potential I rating drops a little bit, so he's not quite as good in drawing walks. But his speed has improved, and his defensive rating at second base has improved, which is where I believe we ended up playing him the majority of the season after he came over via trade. I think was that he was playing second base, and so his rating at second has improved, so that's good. Carrillo, that's disappointing. That's actually very disappointing that his contact and I rating has potential has dropped, but his overall potential rating has dropped as well, which I think he's at 2 stars right now. He's only 23, and they think now he's not going to progress at all. That's slightly worrying, but that's okay. Out of the deals we have made, we're already seeing a lot of things going in the right direction. And as we noted at the very end of the last episode, I've now amassed enough pieces to then convert some of those into potential here and now kind of players, but I don't know kind of how far I want to go with that, because we want to hang on to usable pieces, developable pieces. Is that a word? Developable? Players with the ability to develop significantly. We want that. So I kind of want to find those pieces that have high potential and go from there, which means I think we still need another round of flipping pieces. And at the same time, we only just started to flip our AAA pieces for more assets, which we're already seeing the benefits of that. But there's quite a few more AAA pieces and a lot of AA pieces that we haven't even started with that we can do the same thing with those and pick up another half dozen quality here and now type pieces in return. So over the next few weeks, we are going to continue to reshape the roster. Once that's all kind of happened, though, and we get into that tournament, I essentially want to settle things down, I think, for a while and let this team play and gel and, see how far they can go and how they compare to last year's team before we then blew it up, and really not at any great loss. We weren't much worse after we got significantly younger and got prospects instead of starters. Even though it wasn't a favorable message, I'm actually impressed by this message that I just received. Mitch Ellis was somebody that I was offering a minor league contract to, just a reliever, 27, not great. This is like AAA kind of guy, and I'm not sure if he'll ever get better than that. It was more of a sign and trade, eventually add some depth to our minor league system sort of deal. And he has looked at the players at his position in the organization and realizes that there's not much of a path for him to get to the major leagues and therefore won't sign. I'm impressed by that. That's a smart move on his account, and it shows that even though he's not a great player or anything, it shows that at least in one position, relief pitcher it is, that we do have some quality depth in that position. There is some competition, and there's others having to think twice about it. I assume it's entirely down to the fact that we are entering a new season and the players are just reporting, and so the information that you knew about them at the end of last season has changed, right? People have off seasons. Some of them have really good off seasons and come back better, stronger players than before. Some of them come back overweight, out of shape, and struggling, and a shadow of their former selves. It happens. It happens in real life all the time. So our scouting accuracy of even our own team and all of the players that were out there available to us has fallen off big time. So at the moment we are trying to regain that as we go through spring training, get to know our players a little bit again, and prepare for the upcoming season. I had to do a fair amount of research to find out why I was having trouble getting my World Baseball Tournament up and running. And obviously, because it's already been mentioned on at least a few occasions through the first six episodes, it was necessary that I bring this up now. There is no tournament. The tournament function in this game is somewhat broken. In reality, it could happen, but you can't take existing teams and put them into a tournament head-to-head against each other, such as like a winter league or something along those lines. They draw players. You cannot take your existing rosters and existing teams and let them play each other head-to-head. Even if you wanted to, say, pick the three champions and put them in a little mini round-robin tournament against each other from the three leagues. No, can't. There's nothing doing. And the restrictions on it are rather weird, don't make a lot of sense, and I have a feeling that most people don't use it, which is why it's hard to find much information on it. As is, it's a mess of a system, and the only way that I could create a tournament in the manner that I want to would be completely manually, team by team, times 90, player by player, picking 25 players from their roster. Wow. I mean, that would take me forever. So no, it's not happening. And then that would have to be done every season, by the way, for it to work and function. So we will not be having a World Baseball Tournament, unfortunately, in this series. But the league and our 3-tier promotion relegation, at least that is functioning as intended, and will continue as we go forward. Not quite sure why our first preseason game is... It has us starting with our number 3 pitcher, but that's fine, whatever. But here's how the team is shaping up, at least for the time being. Current makeup of the roster of what I would think would be a starting lineup. Now, of course, like I said, it's our number 3 pitcher, maybe even our number 4 pitcher who's getting the start today. But in terms of the makeup of the lineup right now, Sam Nance still in the same leadoff position he was in from a season ago, but Garrett Hampson, who we just recently traded for, at second base, 28-year-old couple-star guy. And we got him for peanuts. We got him for nothing. Trey Harris in at right field. We have Luke Williams playing first base instead of third, and he came in mid last season. Valadares, somebody we recently picked up, talented 24-year-old. I believe Valadares was in the Flint trade. I think that was the key piece we got back for that one. And for at least the short term, he is a middle of the lineup kind of guy for us, even though definitely not a Flint in terms of quality. Pitre is somebody who did play last season, didn't play particularly well after the trades that ensued. So we may change him out short term. Salazar, another new piece in at DH. He is a first baseman regularly, but Luke Williams is a bit better defensively. I think I'll make those comparisons later. This is just a rough lineup for the time being. Geiger, I just got in as a catcher like yesterday. 1.5 star guy, and we got him for nothing. So for us, that was actually a slight upgrade. And at 28, he's tolerable. Defensively, tolerable as a hitter. And then Cornegay, who was middle of the lineup last season, kind of being forced into it. He's more of a defensive player than an offensive player. So him getting bumped down to the bottom of the lineup is a sign of the progress we're making. And in our direct head-to-head for the day, we look pretty balanced. But look at it, what they have. Yeah, they have their couple guys at the middle of the order that are talented, but then it falls off. And that's looking more like what we had a year ago. And, that doesn't translate well. They don't have the half-star guys like we had a year ago. But outside of Geiger, right now, we're easily able to get not only a starting lineup, but also a bench full of players that are 2 stars or better. And we're going to have a AAA that's full of players that are 2 stars or better. Where last season, a majority of the team was somewhere between a half-star and 1.5 stars. And then we had a couple strong players. So we've gone from 2 players that could play and 23 players that absolutely could not, or like 20 players that absolutely could not, to we could put together a whole team now that is better than all but that 2 to 5 players from a season ago. And we can go into a AAA that is going to be as good as a AAA team that could probably beat our major league team from a season ago, outside of those 2 guys that the pitchers would have had a really hard time shutting down. But if you can get the other 7 out, you're quickly getting through a couple innings, and then you're struggling through every 3rd inning or so with those 2 batters who, one of them hits a long ball and one of them pops out. So you give up 1 run every 3 innings. It's not hard to beat a team with they're only scoring 3 runs. You could pull that together. We're a team that can produce more hits. We can get on base more often. We can drive in some more runs. And we're better defensively than we were last season as well. So all of that's going to contribute. We're going to quickly go through this preseason game, though, and see just initially how the team is shaping up. It was a base hit that dropped in. Wow, talk about bad defense. So we opened with a base hit on the first at bat. This one's going to drop in there, and that one drops in there rightfully so. But for the first one, our center fielder backed up to let it one hop and right in front of him when he could have easily caught it on the drive. But with 2 hits so far, is that a walk? Hit by pitch? Yep, hit by pitch. That's okay. That's their big-time player. But it is bases loaded with just 1 out here in the top of the first. Finally, a strikeout from Cummings gets us to 2 outs and has us a real opportunity to get out of this first inning without any damage. That one hangs just long enough for the out, and we do escape the first inning without too much damage. 2 hits and a hit by pitch. It leads to no runs, so we do slicing on that one, just catching a piece of the barrel, and that's a quick, easy out. That one driven a little bit harder, but still can't barely get off the grass, and the shortstop makes an easy play on that one. So our first 2 batters have third one even worse, as he doesn't even make contact with the ball, and he strikes out on 4 pitches. And wow, that was a quick 1, 2, 3 for our lineup there in the first. Long drive there, but that's going to hang up there. And it's dropped. That's an error. Yikes. Valadares has all day to get under that pitch. And or under that hit. And he can't do so. Ooh, called for a balk. Ouch. A bulk with an L, but it's a balk, how it's pronounced. A balk is an illegal pitch, which allows runners to advance. Usually it's your foot being off the mound, or you do a movement and then reset and do a movement again in a manner that's not allowed. The rules have changed on that in recent years, and I'm not as fluent on illegal pitch rules as I once was. Oh gosh, there's another play that seemed like a pretty easy routine out that our shortstop should have made a play on and did not. And this ball looked like it was going to slice foul, but it does not. It stays fair, and it clears the fence. It's a home run, and we find ourselves in a heap of trouble, not only in the first, but in the second. And this time, they are converting those base runners into runs scored. It's already 3 on the board, and Cummings is having a terrible day on the mound thus far. But it's not being helped by a defense that is missing what looks like some pretty easy plays. And we didn't even get racked up for an error on that ball. Valadares? Whatever it is. He had all day to get under that. I mean, he moved about 3 steps and that ball hung up there a long time. There's no way at all that thing was anything other than an error. Zero chance that was actually a hit, but hey, that's okay. Whatever. This one's going to slice foul, but will it get out into the seats? It does not. It's caught. It's an out. Struggling. First 2 innings, our offense has been dormant, and our defense, not only has our pitcher struggled, but our defense has struggled as well. We finally get an easy put out there for the first out of the 3rd inning. This one, looked like it was going to slice foul, or hook foul anyway, and it does not. The spin on the ball made it look, the shadow made it look like it was curving. It didn't curve. It stayed straight. And that is a successful steal. Finally Cummings coming up with something a little bit better than what we saw. Back-to-back strikeouts gets us out of the 3rd. Finally an inning without too much damage, though a runner did reach 2nd on this. We have not had an inning yet defensively where there has not been runners in scoring position. And we have yet to even get a man on base. That is going to hit the gap, and that's going to go for 2. And he's safe in at 2nd. That was Geiger. Nice. Our weakest player in the lineup. Cornegay, okay. I'm not sure what happened on that one. I didn't hear anything say strike 3, but it looked like that was a ball 4, and instead he's rung up, heads back to the dugout, and then we slice the next one, and that's the end of the inning. We at least finally got somebody on base, and our first player in running scoring position for the season. Well, not the season, for the preseason. Spring training. Potential double play, easy one. And that's out of the inning. Much better. Getting better inning by inning. First inning was really ugly. Second inning was as ugly, if not more. I mean, they scored more runs, obviously, but it looked equally ugly. But definitely improving over the last 2 innings. And then we start the bottom of the 4th with a quick walk back to the dugout. The slow walk of shame. And there's an error. Finally, we benefit from one. I'm assuming this is actually going to be called an error. It is. We've made countless mistakes already in this game. Pass ball. That's going to allow the advance, and we only have one out and a runner in scoring position now for 2 innings in a row. Can we finally capitalize? We are in the middle of the lineup. This one looked for a second like it might drop, but it does not, and they're going to get out of the setting with no runs. Give it up. Not that it matters. It's preseason. Speaking of, it's preseason. We've seen a little bit of the team so far. Not looking good on this performance, but it's half of one game, and ultimately that is nothing. And that's one of the key reasons why I don't focus too much on our actual games themselves. It's a long-term project, and it's way more about the general manager side of things than it is about what happens in the top of the fifth of a preseason outing or regular season outing. Playoffs are another matter. But this one got even uglier. It finished at 8-0, but again, completely irrelevant. Really does not matter. Even if these guys didn't do well. We had 2 hits on the entire day, by the way. This means nothing. One game is one game. And if you're capable of hitting a ball, you're eventually going to hit a ball. That's the thing. And that's why a sport such as this one with so many games in the season, you really can't just judge off of a few days into the season and start making moves. You really have to give guys like a solid month to see if they're truly struggling or not before you start making changes, before you make rash decisions. Recent acquisitions have increased our payroll, but it is still last place in the league. We're at $37 million right now. The good thing that I'm seeing, though, is we are seeing a rise in position rankings among players. Now, of course, we don't have the 2 stars we had, but where we're still really weak at catcher, we're mid-table now for first base. We've climbed into the top 10 for second and third. Shortstop is mid-table. Left field, as I pointed out already, is a little bit weak. We have a good center fielder, and we have backup center fielders that could play left or right. Pitching is still a big area of concern, though the relievers are okay. This is a sign of progress, though. I mean, it is a team going in the right direction. There are plenty of average elements on the team now, just not great elements, and we haven't necessarily found a ton of potential out there, which is a little worrying, as it's a little hard to develop when they're already kind of at their peak. But at least we've gotten younger, and we've acquired so many extra pieces that I really think we can start to fill some of these gaps. And we're not as far off from being a win now type team than we were, especially now that the majority of the league has really fallen off this season. One of my absolute favorite areas to look at in terms of how a team has grown and changed from one season to the next is your team sorted by wins above replacement gained, your WAR. Mesa, as we had already noticed, they've done well. Okay, Richmond Fighting Lions, that was the team we just played in that preseason game. Yeah, they've done well. They've gotten better. But outside of those 2, it immediately falls to 4 or less. And there's only a handful of teams that have a positive balance at all. We are now the highest team with a negative balance. 8 teams have a total positive balance, with Irving Keystones at a 0.1. But we are literally next. We've climbed into the top 10, and that is after getting rid of Flint, that we knew would immediately cause harm. We dropped 5.5 wins from getting rid of Flint. What we got in return was definitely nowhere near the same quality. but it offloaded that huge salary. Now we have payroll flexibility, and we've still somehow managed to slowly get better and better. And the pieces that I'm acquiring right now are, it's quantity pieces of tolerable levels. We're not getting individual players that make us strong just yet. So we've added a crazy amount of depth, and depth doesn't get you a lot of wins above replacement, and yet somehow we are still in the upper third of the league in terms of how we fared compared to last season. Now, of course, how we compared to last season was really bad. So us getting better, or more importantly, saying the average of the league is, well, if we're talking 26 where the top end is 9, I'd say the average of the league is probably 6 to 7 wins worse than a season ago. If that is your average, if that becomes your baseline, not where the league was a year ago, but where the league would be now, if the baseline is -6, you would figure we are probably 4 to 5 wins better than a year ago. That still doesn't translate to be fantastic in any way, because that means we're looking at maybe 59 or 60 wins. Doing the math, right? It doesn't fare terribly well. We haven't improved. Technically, we are worse, but others have gotten so much worse. I still like the way we're headed, though. The cleanup of the minor league system is still very much an ongoing process, but I've made a lot of progress with it and haven't shown you anywhere near as much of the trade activity that we had previously. You can see AAA, we're down to just 20 players on the roster. And you can see majority are at 2 stars. And this is all that's left of the lower end talent at the AAA. This, a season ago, was the entire roster other than a couple of guys that we called up to the major leagues a month and a half into the season. So we're looking at just a few guys left at the very, very bottom end that are still likely to get traded, especially looking at the numbers we have. For one thing, we have 39 on our spring training roster right now. 15 have to go somewhere. So clearing out 5 more spaces here clears up about 10 spots for AAA, which means we need about 5 more to figure out where they go. So that's get rid of 5, get rid of 5 more. AA is now at 24. That's a fairly good number. We still have 41 at single A, though, so we're still about plus 15 there. So overall, we have roughly 10 to get rid of. We have 15 to get rid of. That's 25 to cut down. We're at 24 here and 36 here. Now that means minimum we're talking about getting rid of another 20 from these lower levels, because we're going to have a draft coming in, and those 2 leagues don't start up until after the draft, and we want those players to have space. So all in all, we've got a good 35 to 40 expendable players still, and so much of that can be all of these half-star guys. You can see we're down to a few here, but a couple of those are injured. That's the roster I've been working on here for the last little bit, and we have some potential at least in that one. But like Tan Fong, I have no problem getting rid of a 1-star player that's already 25 and looks to have no additional potential over what they have. But here's one of those ones that we've barely touched yet. You can see there's a lot of half-star or 1-star type talents that we're going to be able to package. And in those 2-for-1s, right now we are getting back a lot. Now, not every trade we've made has worked out because our scouting, remember, it really fell off. So we're relearning players. Here's one that didn't work out so well in trade. Rogelio Williams, 1-star is how we're now looking at him now that he's shown up to spring training. But out of all of those, there's really only been a couple that haven't panned out, that haven't become much. And we just do the same thing. we just package those and send them on their way. Uh, it is a heck of a process, and it takes a lot of time. It's taken many, many hours already, but you just shuffle and shuffle and shuffle and shuffle, and eventually you're getting positive returns. And, we're already seeing that a bit here, as we had 2 quality players, and then that was pretty much the end of it. And now, this entire top end are guys we've brought in on trade. The entire top end of the team. Yes, we lost our 2 quality pieces, but it's not because we couldn't, or we had to get our pieces by trading away those quality pieces. They were both guys on expiring contracts that were due massive increases in pay. For this year alone, it was supposed to be 32 and 37 million for Flint and Pedrero. We didn't have 70 million to play with to pay those 2 guys. We are not the major leagues. We're the 3rd tier, and our entire payroll is supposed to be under about 50 to 55 million, give or take. Those 2 players alone would have topped that by 15 million, and Flint alone put us up near that limit. Getting rid of those was about finances, not about the prospects in return. We're getting the prospects through other means for the most part. It is a much, much harder way to make deals get done as opposed to shopping players. But when you shop players, it's 2 for 1. You can only get so much out of that. When you get down into your lower areas, into your rookie league, and the guys aren't even good enough to hang there, they have no future. But instead of just releasing them, it's possible. It's just possible to make some deals happen. The best way for that one to work out is where you're getting 4 or 5 players all packaged together, one big package deal for 1 prospect. 1 player who is not good now, but could be good down the road, given time. So one great example of this one, and I've already got about 4 offers out in place, and I think one of them might go through, possibly a second one. The others are maybe a bit of a stretch. But you can see the green pluses, I've gone kind of to the extremes of what I can do. But look at here. There's a 20-year-old shortstop. He's only a half-star right now, but he's got 2-star potential. Very weak player. But there is hope for him, where I have guys that just have no hope. So what we're going to do is we're going to package the last starter we've got now. They don't like him, it's a no-go. But as we add to it, as we build on it, we add some more in. And fielders are kind of the more useful pieces. I don't want to get these few guys that actually are. There's only 4 players that have potential here, so we're not hurting ourselves much. That's 4. It looks like we're not going to get close on this one, but that's kind of the nature of the game. And this one is so much harder because the AI puts together potential deals. What would somebody give you in return? Here, you have to go and do that dirty work yourself, and you have to come up with the pieces that'll make them happy. In fact, even our GM doesn't like this deal. He thinks we wouldn't like it because we're giving up 5 players for just 1 guy in return. But at this point, I have far too many players in my minor league system. The alternative is just to cut them, but no, they have value. I have 5 guys with this small amount of value that I'm trying to get something back in return on. Now, we can't get Damian Mora, but maybe we can get somebody else. We have a right fielder who's already kind of at his capacity. What do they think about this one? Okay, here's a maybe, right? This is a maybe. For me, that's okay. It's a 2-star guy. That's a huge upgrade from what they are. It's a guy who's AA versus 5 guys who are never going to make it out of the rookie league. Well, like I said, a lot of those deals don't even pan out. You only get so close on them. You don't want to offer too much. Otherwise, what's the point, right? You've got to get something in return. It's a balancing act. And honestly, this is, for me anyway, so much of what this game is when you are building from scratch. Is you are just constantly wheeling and dealing as that general manager. And you know what? That's what a general manager does in real life. Uh, this might be that game that has the two aspects to it, where you're GM and you are the head coach. But I definitely see myself mostly as the GM in this game. Now, one quick thing we're going to take a look at: strengths of the roster. This is our starters and our prospects. Yellow is we are okay. Green is good. Blue is very good. So our prospects at left field and center field are very good. We've definitely got some prospects in the works, short and in the outfield. Our starters are looking okay. Relievers, we are very, very thin at reliever, which makes a lot of sense because I've traded the bulk of our relievers away. So we definitely have some holes to fill in the pitching lineup. But that is where the team is at this point. I have traded another handful of our starters away, primarily because we hit our 40-man roster cap. We have 40 major league contract players. Can't take on more. So to make space, I started to reshuffle the worst of those in those 2-for-1 deals to get a little bit better and get rid of that bottom end. So I've got about 3-4 spots now open on the 40-man roster. Our minor league system is starting to look a little bit like I want it to. Here is that system, by the way. So the bottom end of, it's 38 players that we have. We have a few guys that are very much not ready. They're not going to make the roster. Lyman, Uceta, De Los Santos. But they do have potential, but not great potential. So there's a very good chance, especially if we start filling up these last couple roster spots, because it's a 40-man roster. I have one extra. I'm not sure who it is. I haven't looked closely to figure out who that one player is that's up here that's not actually on the 40-man roster. But anyway, I will almost certainly take these few guys and move them along here very soon. In fact, this entire bottom end, from Colbert, Geiger, Trainer, yeah, he's only a reliever, Lyman, Uceta, De Los Santos. These 6 players are very likely to be moved on, 6 down to 3, and save a few more roster spots for us and get a little bit better, even with what we have and with the depth of the players we have on major league contracts. But then you can see just how much better we've gotten down here. AAA, we've got 1 2.5 star talent. We've got a bunch of 2-star talents, with quite a few of them having potential. Kumai is somebody I was able to get signed, so that's awesome that we got Kumai signed. We've got some talent there. This is more than we had from here on up. This is more than we had in our entire minor league roster system, the entire system, a year ago, and we have that all now. And then the fall off, it's not severe. We're down to that handful of players at the bottom end, and that's 15. And there's going to be players coming down from here. There's 13 more players that got to go. If we have 6 and cut that down to 3, that's still 10 players. That's still 10 players that are going to have to go off of that roster and end up down here at AAA. Not all of them are going to accept those assignments. So there's another, package them up and send them on their way. But AA is looking better than our entire organization looked a year ago. But you can see how this is a lot of 1.5 star talents, while this is a lot of 2-star talents. And there is a little bit of an age difference between the groups. But again, there's only a couple players at the bottom, and these are guys who are out on injury, 2 months, 14 months. Whew. Okay, we're getting a clear picture. And the single A one, a lot of these guys are close to what their potential is, outside of like Gutierrez, but there is some talent down there. There's plenty of 1-star guys, and this is that one. I've just started to get into trading off some of these single A guys, and with 40 of them, there's easily 10 more that can be traded for, additional prospects and better prospects. And these 2 are largely gutted now, outside of a few guys with potential. So the rest of them are pretty much all expendable. So I still have plenty more, but unlike before where 2 for 1, especially with higher quality players, you can get better in return. You get down here 2 for 1, you're still not going to get anything for an offer coming back. You might not get any offer at all for 2 weak players. And that's where it comes into you need 5 weak players to get one okay-ish prospect in return. But one okay-ish prospect is better than just releasing those 5 guys. That's the point. But that is a harder process than the other processes we had. And, we have a good 35, 40 of those still to go to eliminate off of the roster. Doesn't have to all be done at once, doesn't have to all be done this season, but if we have 20 new draftees coming in, I can clear out at least 10 to 15 more from these 2 squads. I can definitely get rid of another 10 here, so that's 20 to 25 plus those last couple expendable pieces from these 2 levels, plus that 6 down to 3 from there. And I think that'll just about do it. But that's still a lot of work. That is still a lot of work to make that happen. But I've almost completely redone the roster. There are very few players left at any level compared to what we have, other than those 40 or so pieces at the bottom end of our minor league system that don't belong here. They have no potential. That is going to do it for this episode, though. We're about halfway through spring training, and I'm going to be doing this work off camera. I will show you our opening day roster at the beginning of our next episode. I'm Decathlon Gamer. Like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Have a good one. Be safe out there. Bye for now.